This video is all about keeping an eye on our homestead.
Ooh, fun noises. It's looking at me. That's an awkward thumbnail.
We're installing not one, not two, but 7 rear link cameras to do the job. We're pushing the limits on how far Ethernet cable can run, having a little fun with wireless in the backyard.
Alex is gonna take my phone. We're gonna see if we can hear him.
Nice boobs.
And spying on the locals hanging out in the driveway. And most importantly, doing it all without paying a monthly subscription. Something we decided on pretty early in the build was that we were going to install a hardwired security camera system. So in a previous video, we did all of our low voltage, rough-in wiring and boxes. Now we are ready to get the cameras actually installed now that we have some drywall and paint. We have a variety of Reolink cameras to install, both indoor and outdoor. One is wireless and solar powered. All the rest are power over Ethernet or PoE. Reolink is the sponsor of this video. They graciously sent out this system, so we're gonna do our best as first-time camera installers to get all the cameras mounted and ready to go. First, the simplest camera, it's their RLC 1224As. These are a fixed camera. They will go in 3 of our downstairs rooms, our utility room, and both the front and back garage. Then we have 3 PTZ or pan tilt zoom cameras, 2 of these RLC 823As. They will go on both the front and the rear soffits. And we actually ended up using their Duo 3V on the rear, which was a better fit with the full 180 field of view.
And then this RLC 823A is a special one that's got 16x zoom, so it can zoom in like crazy. This is actually gonna go way out away from the house for our driveway camera. This is the RLN 16-410 NVR, or network video recorder. Basically a big hard drive that continuously stores all the camera's footage that are coming in for at least a few days worth of footage that you can always go back on. And then finally, the Argus PT Ultra, that is a Wi-Fi and solar camera. We're gonna be putting this in the backyard on a tree, so it's gonna be completely wireless. The box underneath this is a solar panel that will keep this battery charged. One of the cool things I'm really excited about is all of these transmit to your phone with no subscription. Services like Ring and competitors to Reolink have a subscription fee, and that just seemed like a real pain to have to be continuously paying that for basically the rest of your life to use the camera. So all of Reolink's products don't use a subscription. That was the #1 thing that drew us to their product. The very first camera I want to mount inside the house is here in the utility room. The reason being is this guy right here, this 300-gallon water tank that will be positioned approximately where I'm standing, and once filled with water will be virtually immovable. So the area I want to put the camera is right above this water tank. So I want to get it in place before we set this in place and get it all filled up. I just mounted that guy up there, just a normal 4-inch square electrical box, which I will mount the camera to the lid of that and terminate that wire to plug it into the camera. This is what I'll be putting here in the utility room and all the other fixed camera locations inside the house. It's the RLC 1224A, and it comes with this base plate that I'm going to match the whole pattern of onto my square metal cover. Shockingly, I think that works. Head of that screw is just barely short enough for that to actually work. I think 2 is going to be enough. I think that'll do. Let's test her out. I do not have my termination tool yet. I just ordered it because I've never done this before and I don't own one. So they're really cheap on Amazon. So what I ended up getting, just like a $20 one. But I just wanted to kind of make sure this worked first before I went all out doing other ones. Cool. Just barely get a screwdriver in there. So I've got it pointing in the general direction that I want it, but I don't know if you can like rotate the image in the software because the camera itself has to be sort of pointed diagonally to get it diagonally viewing off the wall. I'm thinking they might have it programmed so that like this is the horizontal plane of the camera and you have, you know, upwards and downwards, but I want to be looking this way diagonally off the wall. So hopefully you can kind of reset the horizontal in the software. I'm not sure how that's going to work. If that's not the case, I might have to build a little block to put this metal box here on an angle, looking where I want it, and that way I can adjust it as it's intended to be. We'll see what it does with the software.
Well, upon one quick Google search, I realized that you cannot in fact rotate the image anywhere other than 0 or 180 degrees, so I had to make a little change. Instead of changing the wall mount, I just decided to mount it to the ceiling like it's meant to be. Luckily, I had plenty of cable to make that happen. Off camera, I figured out how to do the male termination for the Cat 6 cable. It was my first time ever doing one of these, so I wasn't gonna try to put it on camera. The lighting was bad anyway, but did some YouTubing, figured out how to do it, got the right tools for it, and made it happen. On the next one, I'm out in the garage where I have better lighting. I'll show that. That guy right up there is the next camera. It's gonna look out all over the back wood shop area. One thing I want to point out is in our low voltage video, when I mounted these up, I used regular old double gang boxes, which have about a 3 1/4 inch distance between the holes. And I will know for the future not to use these again for cameras because the cameras are set up for little round or octagon boxes with the slightly narrower hole spacing. I believe it's like 2 7/8. That means I'll need to do a little bit of custom modification to get these Reolink camera plates to work with the double gang box. That's a life lesson learned the hard way and one that I'll definitely implement in the future house going forward. Use round boxes for cameras. Here's the base plate that comes with the camera. It locks in these 3 little tabs right here. Super simple. However, these are not the right diameter like I just said. They're just a little bit too close by about a 1/4 inch. So I'm gonna drill my own holes just kind of in one of these open bays here. I measured out and I basically need to drill a hole pretty much at the edge of where this little ridge is here. And then I'm gonna countersink it on the back side just like how these are so the screw does not interfere with the camera itself. Switch to my little countersink bit. Now I'll just give these a light countersink from the other side. Nothing crazy. Just like that. Now for the tedious part, which is terminating this Cat 6 cable that we ran many months ago into an actual connector, which is going to plug into the connector on our Reolink camera. So first step that I always forget is to slide the strain relief boot on. Not that we really need it that much because we're just putting it up in this box. The only thing this little boot does is prevent you from bending the cable too tightly right up against the connector and potentially damaging the conductors. Not sure how much it really helps in the grand scheme of things, but it's there. The next thing to have is this little guy, which is a stripper specifically for this type of cable. Just got a thin little razor blade. It clips onto the cable. You spin it around a couple times, it scores it, and then you can kind of break the jacket right off without nicking the conductors, which is the most important thing. I'm gonna leave about 2.5 inches or so. Clip this on, rotate it around just a couple times. Don't wanna get too crazy with it. And unclip it. Now I should be able to, yep, there we go. Break that jacket right off. Pull the outside jacket off, perfect. Inside the cable, we have our 4 different twisted pairs, the plastic spline in the middle that keeps them separated. We're gonna cut that out. And then this little piece of ripcord, which is just a string, we're also gonna cut that out as well. Snip the ripcord.
What's that used for?
I'm not really sure what the ripcord exactly is for, to be honest. I think it's so that you can somehow pull the jacketing off the wire with it, but I'm not really sure. For the divider, I've seen people snip the whole thing, but then saw a different video with a little tip about snipping all 4 fins independently and then giving it a little twist, and it breaks off much cleaner. It doesn't get so mangled when you snip it, and you can essentially get it broken more flush with the end. I mean, it looks about the same to me. I'm not sure how great of a tip that really is, but just something to note that I saw from someone else's video. Now we need to untwist these guys and straighten them all out. And I saw a fun little tip. You can use the cutoff jacket as an untwister. I guess it's a little bit easier than trying to do it all with your fingers. I do agree with this tip. I put a glove on and I'm using just a little screwdriver bit here to give a nice firm squeeze on these things. Do that about twice per cable. It's nice and straight, ready to go into the connector. Anything round will work, like a screwdriver shaft or a pencil. Now for the hard part is, what order do they all go in? I'm following this handy pinout diagram, which I downloaded off the internet, for the T568B protocol for Ethernet. There's an A as well, but the B is what these Reolink cameras use. It's the more common, I believe. And it just tells you what order all these different color wires have to go in inside that little plastic connector so that the data and the power all work like they're supposed to. There's 8 different cables, and if any one of them are misaligned, things aren't gonna work. So it's really important to get this right.
Yep.
Then it's blue, white, green, brown, white, brown.
Yep.
Cool. So it's easy to get them lined up like this. The hard part is keeping them lined up as they get pushed into the connector. So I'll keep them as flat and straight as I can, give them a good flush cut so they're all exactly the same length, and push them into that connector, hopefully keeping them in the same order. Orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown.
Yep.
1 through 8. And there goes all the wires. This is a pass-through style connector. There's certain kinds that don't have the ability to stick the cables all the way through the connector. I think these are easier from what I've read. I haven't used the other one, but it seems a lot easier. So here's the moment of truth. And the nice thing is, if you screw up, you can just pull it back out again and try again, which I've had to do a couple times on the first one of these. So looking at the back side of the connector without the little tab on it, we're sticking them in like that. All right, so they all went through. Pretty easy if they're all flush cut. Let's see if they're the right order. Orange, white, orange. Green, white, blue. Blue, white, green. Brown, white, brown. I think that's correct. First try, heck yeah. Now I'm gonna take my pliers and oval this a little bit so that it fits into my connector. The object is to get this blue all the way up in this connector, because this is a little crimp right here that the connector tool is gonna push down and crimp onto that blue cable jacket. So we wanna get that all the way up, and we're gonna make it from a round to an oval to make it fit in that rectangular recess in the connector. I don't wanna get too crazy with it, but just enough to give it a little squeeze. I think that's about good right there. Now we're ready for our termination tool. So this is the termination tool, total necessity for doing one of these. The cool thing is you just stick it in here and it both cuts the wires totally flush with the end of the connector and crimps the little barbs on the connector down into the wire and pierces each of those 8 conductors at the same time. And it also crimps onto the blue cable jacket. So it's doing 3 operations with 1 squeeze of the handle. And once you do that, you're ready to connect this to Ethernet. Feed the wires in so we're nice and flush up in there. You can see the little guillotine blade that's going to cut all those. And at the same time, do all the rest of the operations. So I'll give this a good squeeze. And look what we have at the end of the day. The conductors are all cut flush. These little guys are all pushed down into their respective wire. And this guy is crimped onto the blue jacket. So now we can just slide our boot. Remember, we put this on at the very beginning. Can slide that on, strain relief boot. And this probably looks like the Ethernet cable that you're used to seeing. So we just took a raw cable in and turned it to that, and now we can plug and play right into our camera. If we drilled our holes right, this should fit. These are meant for outdoor use as well, so they have these weatherproof caps on them. Don't need that for this application, but that's all we need because it's power over Ethernet, so power comes through a couple of those conductors. And the rest, there's actually a reset button on one of these, and then a power adapter for like a 12-volt application. Actually, I think it's, actually I'm not sure if it's 12 volt. I think it might be 5 or something like that, but regardless, we don't need that. And now we just gotta somehow get all this stuff up into the junction box, which could be easier said than done. It's like packing a clown car or something up in here, jeez. But we always seem to find room. Just wanna make sure I don't kink this data cable at all, because that's gonna impede the flow of signal. Boom. And she's good. Now we can adjust this just sort of by eye. We might have to come up and fine tune it once we get things fired up. But yeah, I think that's about how we want it right there. Looks good. Just to reiterate, this is a fixed camera, so you can adjust it by hand where you want it, but it's not gonna move itself kind of from remote. There are PTZ or pan tilt zoom cameras like we put in on the outsides, which do that. Those are pretty cool. I'm excited to play around with them once we get them in. Next up is our front door camera. This is an RLC 823A PTZ with spotlights and all sorts of other gadgets. We're putting this up on our front soffit right above our door, kind of next to our gutter, so you don't really see it. It is kind of a big camera. I wasn't sure exactly how big they'd be, but they're pretty hefty now that we're looking at them. But it'll be really nice to be able to rotate this all around so we can see the side yard as well as the front driveway as well. And of course, out of the box, it's set up to be mounted on the wall. we are mounting it up under our soffit. So they make these accessory kits to be able to do a ceiling mount. So we just got to swap this thing out. We'll do that inside. And then I also have to make a cover plate for our box. It's just a standard duplex box like the rest of them, but I need something that will adapt this round base to the square 4-inch box format. So I'm going to use some sheet metal to make my own little cover plate inside. They very thoughtfully put some silicone in these screw holes, so I'm going to dig that out first. Should definitely replace it with some sealant though. All right, we're loose. Get into the guts of this thing. I see a circuit board, so don't want to be too, there we go. Don't want to be too rough with it. Huh, that doesn't look like it wants to come out. Here's our first predicament of the install. I can't get this Ethernet line out of the existing mount. I think I'm gonna have to do it from the other end. So there's a couple zip ties on the board here connecting the cable, and then there is what looks to be a connector that hopefully pops right off. And then I can come through the other side. Do not want to lose that screw. Seems very delicate, so definitely do not want to mess this up. 2 fingernails later, got it off intact. All right, let's see if this will go back through now. It's gonna be really careful I don't hurt something in the process. All right, we are free of the mount. Well, it's a good thing I took the cable totally off, because trying to get this through the ceiling mount, it won't go through that either. So you're definitely supposed to take it off with the circuit board connector, so that way you can thread it down through all the necessary parts and pieces. This extension rod is longer than I need it to be, and it's just a piece of aluminum with a little counter bore in the end of it and some set screw holes. So I was thinking in the future, if I want this to hang up closer, I can shorten this guy on a lathe. I don't have a lathe, but a friend of mine does. And if I am not satisfied with how this is hanging, I can always shorten this little arm up so that the top of the camera is like here rather than a couple inches below, if it's hanging down too low like that. And this is the last bit it's got to go through here. This is what will replace that upper camera housing that the bracket was integrated with. Beautiful. Now I'm just going to put the set screws in this so we don't have to keep playing around with this, and then get this hooked back up to the circuit board. We'll reconnect it and get zip tied back up. We're going to be ready for action here shortly. Camera is ready to go. Mounting plate is not yet. This is a piece of fascia left over from our house because I hold on to all building materials like a hoarder. And go figure, I have a use for this little piece of scrap metal today. I'm going to be cutting out my index card sized mount for this, and I'm going to fold this over 3 times. This is fairly thin steel, 28 gauge, I want to say. So I mean, it's sturdy enough, but when I fold it over 3 times, then it will become closer to being, you know, kind of structural. This camera probably weighs like 3-4 pounds, dangling down in the wind. There might be a decent amount of force on this, so I'm gonna try to make it decently beefy, but not too heavy. And I haven't decided yet, but I think I am just gonna do 2 holes into the outlet box that's there. Even though it is threading into plastic, I don't really wanna put screws up into the metal soffit yet if I don't have to, just because I can't really take those screw holes out if I ever go to, put this somewhere else. So we'll see how this works first with just 2 mounting screws up into the box. It's my makeshift sheet metal brake right here. Pretty stiff. The flash card is officially ready. It's quite sturdy, and I've got all my holes drilled. So these are the 2 that go in the outlet box, and the circle of the light was too large for me to actually center it up with these 2 holes. It overlapped, so I'm having to off-center the circular mount from the center of the card, but that's actually okay because that lands this hole for the camera mount right over top the framing member that the box is actually nailed to. So that's perfect. I can get 1 screw into some framing, which will help support this somewhat heavy camera. So it goes like that.
Okay, you tell me what to hold.
You can just hold this there. I'm gonna plug the camera in. Plugged. Yeah, so you just hold that up like that. I'm going to try to get this screw going in the box.
Can you tell that it's in the right position?
This is the one that's going to go into the framing. Hopefully. I mean, honestly, it might be good right there. I don't want to crank it too tight. I think that looks pretty good. I was worried it was going to hang down too low, but it's actually right at the same level as the gutter. So when viewed from afar, it kind of blends in with the gutter. To be honest, kind of just disappears. What I really like though is that it can see the whole driveway here. So it'll be able to see all that way. We'll be able to pivot it around and look underneath the gutter and see at least a little bit of this side yard. And then we'll also be able to see where our future barn is going to be sitting over here. So that is definitely a good application for a PTZ. I'm excited about that. The next camera in our system is this little guy right here. This is the Argus PT Ultra, and it is the only wireless camera that we're putting in. We're doing it way back in the woods here, viewing the whole backyard. It'll connect with our Wi-Fi network with this antenna here, and will be powered by a solar panel mounted just below the camera on the tree back here in our yard. We've picked our tree out very close to our compost pile so we can creep on all the critters munching on our compost. Both the solar panel and the camera are supplied with some straps we'll be using to really temporarily mount it to the tree. We're not sure if this is where we want to keep it for the long term. Once we get our chicken coop here, we might want to actually put this looking in on our chickens because it is truly wireless. You can put it wherever. So this is where it's going to be for now. It's a great view of the backyard, and the strap makes it really easy to mount and dismount with no hardware or equipment. I'm gonna go ahead and plug the solar panel in before mounting this so I can connect the wire a little bit easier. It's a waterproof USB-C connection, which is kind of interesting. There's like little gaskets built onto the end of the USB-C cable. And then there is a power switch right here too, which I'm gonna flick that on in just a little bit once we get it mounted, but they have a nice little waterproof cover for that as well. We're probably about 150 feet from our back door here at this tree, and so I'm hoping our Wi-Fi will still work at this distance. We get it kind of spotty in the RV, which is a little bit closer actually, but this is higher up and with a better line of sight. So I'm hoping that we don't have any issues with Wi-Fi connectivity. That is the one risk of wireless cameras, is you're reliant on Wi-Fi, whereas PoE, you've got a hard data line for both data and power, which is really convenient. Never have to worry about running out of power or dealing with bad connectivity. All right, here's the moment of truth. Switching the power on. It is officially on. It's gonna happen. Ooh, fun noises.
Welcome to Reolink. Please install Reolink app and scan the QR code on the camera.
Okay.
Willkommen bei Reolink.
Oh.
Bitte Reolink App installieren und den QR-Code
Multi-language.
scannen.
All right, well, I've got the Reolink app open, and I don't actually see a QR code jumping out on me on this guy, but there is a barcode. I don't think it's gonna scan the barcode. Okay, we've come to a realization. The UID code that we need to scan might be on the top of the camera, which we've covered up with the mount. This might explain why the instructions tell you to set the camera up before you put the mount on. Yep, there it is right there. All right, now we're in business.
Welcome to Reolink.
Face it to your phone and let the camera scan the QR code on the screen. It says it's supposed to have a beep sound from the camera. Oh, there we go.
Camera is connecting to your router.
Look at that.
Please wait.
Oh, it's doing something.
Connection to the router succeeded.
All
Welcome
right.
to Reolink.
It's looking at me. That's an awkward thumbnail. Now I'm gonna go ahead and mount this. For real, for real.
We can see the entire backyard and the house. It looks like this is the PTZ function. I think we're gonna try to aim this down. Oh, it went to the side. Oh, no, it went down. Alex is gonna take my phone and talk into it. We're gonna see if we can hear him.
Hey boy, hold on.
Oh, wow, I can hear you. Say something else.
Nice boobs.
Maybe don't say that.
I love you.
That's more fitting.
We went ahead and hooked this guy up temporarily upstairs to the NVR just to play around with it and see how it worked. Really freaking cool, panning this thing around, tilting it, zooming it. It follows you as you're kind of walking around. I don't know if you can hear this thing in the background, but it's like zooming around and watching me. the whole time as I move. It works great for this front door application, but we were thinking about the back soffit where we have another one of these for. I don't think it's going to be the absolute best for that application where we want to see a whole wide range all at one time. This has got about a 90-degree field of view, I think, so it's great when it's like at the corner and looking out over the front of the house, but the back camera is in sort of the middle of the soffit, so we want to kind of see a 180-degree field of view. So it turns out Reolink has a product for this, and that product is this guy right here. This is the Duo 3V PoE camera. It's actually two cameras in one. There's two little lenses under this dome that each sort of look around 90 degrees apart, and the software stitches together the field of view from each camera into one continuous panorama image. So we'll be able to see sort of the whole backyard from the back center of the soffit here. I already went ahead and terminated the Cat 6 cable at the box. Now we just need to mount it up with another little custom mounting plate. So here's the interface plate I just fabbed up for this little guy. Ignore these two holes. Those were an accident because I wasn't sure exactly where this needed to go at first. These are the two holes that correspond with the box that's mounted up there. So those will screw in first. I didn't want the footprint of this to rest on those, so they're actually behind where the camera will sit, so they'll be exposed. The cord comes off the camera sort of at the back. So here's the cord entry, and then the other three remaining holes, 1, 2, 3, are the three mounting holes that are underneath the dome of the camera. This one's a little bit different in that the dome actually has got to come off, and then these larger holes here are where you put the mounting screws. Then when you're done, you replace the dome. And you can actually pivot this lens a little bit and you can rotate it. Like if this is mounted on a wall instead of a soffit, it will accommodate that. So once I get these two screwed into the box, then I'll match drill these three holes into the existing metal soffit, which will give me a nice screw hole to start in. When I'm holding this thing up, I don't have to be struggling trying to get the screws started. I also put these two roofing screws into the 2x4 that the box is nailed to, just so that this piece of metal paneling is really secure, because I'm not going to be able to hit that 2x4 with any of the screws that I'm using for the camera itself. I think I got it. No, it's just wedged. Ready for action. Pretty handy that they have this little tether on here, and then the screws are captive so that they don't fall out when you're trying to.
Your string's hanging out.
Oh, got the string pinched. There is a perimeter gasket there, so we got to be careful we don't mess with that. It looks good. The only adjustment I might need to make is loosening this screw a little bit, because it looks like this side of the soffit panel is sucked up a little bit higher than this, so it might not be totally level, but this should work. The last camera to install is going to be the most complicated and most expensive and difficult. It's our driveway camera. We're putting it all the way down on that tree, looking down the driveway. That means we have to trench from that tree all the way back around the house and into the back of the house where we can get to the utility room. We've got our excavation contractor and friend Travis here helping to do the driveway, which we just finished today, the French drain that goes around the house, and while he's here, we're gonna have him dig the little trench for this camera conduit as well. We'll be using a Cat 6 gel-filled exterior rated data cable, and that will be jacketed with a 3/4 inch Schedule 40 PVC conduit to go underground. We're not gonna go super deep on this, probably about a foot deep, just enough to keep it fairly safe from vehicle traffic. Not really worried about freezing or anything like that. So Travis is actually trenching this right now, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put the cable in this weekend. This should be the very last utility trench we have to dig. I'm using one of my spare conduits, which right now the RV power comes into. I'm gonna have to take that out and get that Cat 6 conduit in there. That's gonna come out and follow the trench all the way down. We can bend that conduit around, it's pretty flexible. This is the stack of it, 310 feet of conduit. It's quite a run, and it's pretty much the max limit that you can put Ethernet at. In fact, I might be stretching it even there.
We might have to put a signal booster or something midway. Travis is flying on the ditch. While he is finishing that up, I'm going to start gluing all this conduit together in 90-foot runs because I have a 100-foot long fish tape, and then I'll start feeding our Cat 6 outdoor rated cable through that. My 3 90-foot sections together. 90 foot because my fish tape is only 100 foot. So I'm going to do 3 different runs, and I used my little wheelie gig here to measure the bottom of the trench exactly. 270 feet gets me almost all the way there, and then I will put 2 sticks on right at the end, kind of by hand as I go up the tree. Here's my Harbor Freight fish tape. It's worked great for me so far. I've only used it a couple times, and this is the cable that we'll be using. I got it online. TrueCable.com is the most reasonable price I could find. This is 500 foot of this, and we're looking at gel-filled direct burial. So I've never even heard of this before, but I guess to be direct burial rated, there's a gel-filled. There's also just shielded I saw, but that makes the flexibility go way down, and we got such a long pull, I didn't want to mess with that. Otherwise, it's standard Cat 6. I guess you can directly bury it, but definitely not in our rocks. One false move and a rock would go right through this stuff. So conduit is an absolute necessity in our type of ground. If you have like a sandy soil where there's just no rocks at all, you probably could directly bury this stuff and it would be fine for many years. Gosh. All right, maybe this fish tape wasn't so nice. It's really freaking hard to pull out of here. Easy to push down the conduit, but really difficult to pull out of the spool. Do I have the brake on or something? Jeez Louise. Guess you get what you pay for sometimes from Harbor Freight. I do love it, but oh, smokes. I'm not reeling this back in until I'm done, that's for sure. Luckily, we got a big farm field next to us. If we need to go 300 feet out, we can. This is going to be my makeshift cable unspooler. Little piece of conduit, a box, and a couple slits in it to accept the conduit. I'll station this at the bottom and then just pull up what I need. From the top of the topsoil mound, here is the strategy. I've laid out all 3 pieces. 1, 2, and 3 goes all the way down to the driveway. It's 270 foot total. I'm gonna pull the first section up through there, but I'm gonna pull enough that I can get through the other 2 sections, and then I'll loop that back, get that through the second section, get through it through the third section, glue the second and third sections, and then I'll leave myself about another 20 to 30 feet past the end of this, so that when I loop this all the way around the house, I'll have that little bit of excess to slide on 2 more conduits at the very end, go up the tree, and terminate it at the box. Well, 270 feet of conduit all strung together, literally goes up past the house to the RV. That's a long way. It surprisingly pulls quite easily though through all 270 feet because this is a nice straight run and there's plenty of room in that conduit for this. So I'm gonna trim it off. I'm gonna give myself a good probably 20 feet on this end too, because this has got to come up and into the house. I don't know where the junction box is gonna be in the utility room yet, but I do not want to come short on cable, that's for sure. So I'll nip this guy. I've got another 20 feet extra on the other end way up there, and that is so that it can come up this tree. This is the tree we're mounting it to, and it'll be able to look straight down the driveway. The type of camera we're getting is also able to flip and rotate around, so if you want to look at the front of the house, we can. With this separated now from the coil, I'm gonna call this the great drag. We're going to drag this all the way around the house, into the trench, and all the way back down here, and put it up that tree right there. I'm gonna get Elaina to grab this end so that cable isn't just dragging on the ground and scuffing the jacket off, and I'll get on the front end and lead it, and hopefully we should be able to get this in the trench. We have a huge rain coming tonight, so I really wanna get this in before the rain, which will end up filling this trench with water. We're losing daylight, so I'm not gonna be able to film too much more tonight, but now I got the conduit end where it's gotta be. We have our sleeve in the foundation, which of course is getting used by the RV Electric right now. But in the meantime, I'm going to slip the end up in that little conduit, get it up in the utility room, and then once we disconnect the RV Electric, I will glue this conduit end onto that little stub. Got a little bit too dark for filming last night, but I got the whole conduit in, at least out here to the tree. Now it's time to make the bend up the tree. I got some conduit clamps I'm going to kind of staple it up with. And one other little special thing that I did in the dark last night was, you can't see it, but on the bottom of this little guy here, I drilled 3 weep holes about 1/4 inch before I put the cable in these last couple sections so I didn't damage it. But this is the very lowest point of the conduit. If you go all the way uphill, if there's any condensation or anything that develops in this or any water that leaks in a joint, it's going to end up pretty much right here. And this is not below frost line. Our frost line is 3 foot. So there's a risk of this freezing eventually. I decided to put these holes in to let out any water that might accumulate. I'm gonna be bedding this in pea gravel so that water has a place to go. And hopefully that will keep this thing from freezing solid long term and damaging those conductors in that Cat 6 cable. This is what I rigged up to mount to the tree. It's just a piece of 5/4 deck board, put a little slope on the top of it, little drip edge on the bottom. And here is my 4-inch junction box. This is actually a really nice quality one. This is not a big box store junction box. I got it from the distributor that I got all the conduit from. The walls were super heavy duty. It's got this nice gasket in here. And then I just had to drill my own little hole for the 3/4 inch male adapter that I put in there. So I used a step drill bit to do that last night. But hopefully this should do a pretty good job keeping the water out. Luckily this 3/4 inch conduit is flexible enough, it pretty much bends just like a big wire. Take it right up the side of the tree here. It wants to spring back on me. Ah, come on. That'll do, I think. Seems to be laying in there pretty nice. I think that'll get us started. Now we just gotta set the box up there and screw it on. I really hope this tree survives. It's kind of the secondary skinny tree to the main tree that broke off during the storm, unfortunately, and it nearly crushed the electric transformer over there. It was like sitting over top the transformer. But you can see it's still basically alive at the trunk. It's seeping sap out everywhere. The ants are absolutely loving this. It smells really nice, actually. This is a hickory tree, so it makes little nuts that squirrels and mice love to hide away. Ugh. At least I got a built-in ladder. It's not perfect without that offset. What if I could just mount this straight to the tree? Oh. I decided to ditch the mounting block. The offset between the pipe and the box was way too much. It was really not looking good. Just screwed it straight into the tree with some 3-inch screws, and I think that'll work. At least until this half of the tree snaps off, then this will probably just become a post of some sort. I had a bunch of excess wire, and I actually was able to pull most of it back in through the house. So that's good news if I ever need to pull a new run. Even though this is right at 300 feet long, going all the way up and circling around to the back of the house like a big question mark, I still was able to pull it through the utility room, even with a vertical elbow up through the foundation. So that's only one sharp elbow here. The rest is all just sort of sweeps that we can do with the natural curvature of the PVC. And somehow we are able to still pull this wire through without damaging it. So that is good news. Then it's time to backfill this trench. Up in that pile right there, we have some extra number 57 stone left over from our French drain. I'm going to use that where I can in most of this just to protect it, because it is kind of a shallow ditch. And eventually we're thinking about building a barn somewhere over there, and the driveway will probably veer across this ditch. So in order to protect this pipe long term, it would be nice to have some stone over top of it and try to keep any of these big nasty rocks that we dug up away from the thing. Fast forward a little bit, we are ready to mount this camera on our tree here, and I've made a mounting block out of some deck board. We're coincidentally working on our deck at the same time, and I have this nice little scrap of composite decking. So I pre-drilled a couple holes for some big structural screws, and then pre-drilled the 4 holes for the camera mounting bracket. This is the RLC 823A 16X, so it's got 16 times optical zoom on it, which is a lot. So this should be able to look down the driveway quite a bit and also look up at the house as well. I'm gonna screw this up on the tree, and then we will mount the camera. This is a hickory tree, and it is hard as a rock. Wow. I'm gonna leave the top screw out so that we can pivot the axis of the camera because it can't tilt up at all. And our house is looking up the hill. So in order to see like cars in the driveway and stuff, we need to have that center axis at least pointing where the driveway is at up the hill. So I'm gonna wait until we get this all configured. That way I can bump this way a little bit if I need to. This thing is an absolute beast. It does look quite small from the ground, but holy smokes, this thing is gigantic. Like the lens on it is bigger than my eyeball. There we go. So there's one screw up. You can take the camera off, but why do that if you got the tools?
That's one way to get it done.
I mean, it's moving. I don't want to cinch this down too tight either. Now, of course, the place we picked for this camera is far enough away from this junction box that I had previously kind of just guessed at where to mount it, that the cords right there dangling will not reach. So, got to add a couple feet of height to this junction box and relocate it to one side or the other of the tree. The hard part, of course, is going to be cutting this conduit so that I don't nick this cable. I should have not glued this male adapter on here until I was absolutely sure where the camera was going to go, because go figure, it's not going to reach. That would be so much easier if I could just pull this off, glue on a new stick, but of course life never works out like that. So I'm gonna cut this off like right here. I have a coupler, a 3/4 inch coupler that I can put on that piece, and I can put another piece of conduit on. So let's get through that.
The hardest part of this was being extremely careful with the multi-tool to cut through the conduit without nicking the cable. It did work, but it definitely took some patience. Then I used the step drill to drill a second hole in the box for the camera's cabling to enter, and added a 2-foot conduit extension to get the box further up the tree. And there is the final product. Used some duct seal putty to seal up the cable entrance here. Unfortunately, I couldn't use a cable gland or something because of how big these terminations were on here, but it is what it is. I wish I would have drilled this hole over to the side a little bit so that it wasn't so kind of half-assed over here in the corner, but I wanted to come in through the bottom just so that there's a drip loop here. We're not getting water in. If I was to come through the side, it'd be, I think, a little bit greater risk, but got it all connected up. Ethernet connections made. I'm gonna coil this up, stick the cover on, and she should be ready to fire up. So that's all ready to go, buttoned up. Did a little test run with the NVR, and I like how it's sitting, so I went ahead and put the top structural screw in the mount there. The last thing I wanted to do for this camera though was a little roof over top of it. Reolink does have in the directions not to put it in a place that's going to get like directly pummeled with rain and snow, even though the cameras are waterproof. It's just best if they're up underneath the soffit or somewhere they're not totally exposed to the elements. So of course, being me, I still have a piece of our roof ridge cap, which is this guy here, and it's pretty much got the profile of like a birdhouse top. So I was looking for sheet metal. I thought I was gonna have to bend something custom, and I saw this piece here and I was like, oh, this is perfect. So I just cut a little piece off of that. I'm gonna put a couple screws down into that piece of composite decking, and then I might have to do a couple little angular 45 struts to help keep it from, you know, blowing up in the case that there's a wind or something. But I'm at least gonna get the back anchored on tonight, and I'll do the angled struts after it's already up there. So here's what I'm thinking for the strap, something like that. I think it looks pretty good. It's only a matter of time before this thing becomes an actual birdhouse, so I'm taking bets now on how long it takes for a bird to figure out this little perch that's just perfect for nesting in. That concludes the installation of our PoE camera system. In the next installment on this video, we're gonna get all these cameras actually connected up at the NVR and try them out with the TV screen hooked up and play around with them and see how all that sets up. This video is long enough as is, so we figured we'd just cover the install on this one and the NVR setup on another video. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.